to our Meetup group, the Road to Gainful Employment, and our webcast for tonight, Are You Career Relevant? In particular, Rockstar Your Resume with me, Professor Rick. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's see what we're going to talk about this evening. These are the key tips that I would say 90% of not only candidates, but even certified resume writers are missing when putting together what I call a rock star resume. And you're thinking, wow, that many, they're missing that much? Absolutely. I know that firsthand. So the first part of these tips are quantify your accomplishments, use action and power words, list keywords for soft skills. That's a big piece. Highlight your skills and abilities. And I also have a special section at the top of the resume which shows why you're qualified for a position. So let's dive into this. So when I say quantify your accomplishments, it doesn't matter if you're in sales, it doesn't matter if you are in a position where, in a nutshell, you should be able to use numbers, dollars, and percents. So if you're not in sales and you are in project management, you could still talk about how many projects you've done, how many people are on your projects, for example, or the percentage wise, how well you improved the process or how well you reduced a process, percent wise. So if you're not quantifying your accomplishments and you want to put those elements in your resume, which I'll show you, by the way, when we're done, why should I hire you as an employer? So be mindful of that. Quantify your accomplishments. And if you're not doing that now, start thinking about how could I quantify my accomplishments? Because at the end, it's not if you could do the job. If you're already brought into an interview, they already know you're qualified. They already know you could do the job. They want to know what you've done and what you could apply to the role that you are trying to get. And the only way you could talk about is what did you accomplish? That's why we talk about quantifying your accomplishments. So let's go to the next slide. Oh, that's right. I should do this piece. Shoot. I wonder if this is going to open up. Use action and power words. I did not have that up. Let me see if I can bring that up. So give me a moment here. And share with you some of my trade secrets here. I'm also bring this one up. And what was the other one? There's that one and... Oh yeah, there are two. Okay, good. So let me bring both these up. This one and this one. So bear with me, class, because I didn't realize that was going to pop up there. Okay, good. So let me swing this over here to my second screen. And you also have that URL. Okay, so when we talk about use action or power words, you're thinking, well, what does that mean? So what I've done was I provided a web reference that you could grab those power words that are used when you apply to a position online. They use a system called the ATS system, which is the applicant tracking system, which searches for keywords. So if you don't have those keywords, the lower your resume is scored and less chance that you're brought in for an interview. So what does that look like? Let me do my screen share, desktop sharing, and this is an example. This is the actual web link for 185 powerful action verbs for your resume. So instead of using, everyone uses managed, handled, you don't even want to ever use the word responsible. But what's nice about this is they break these 185 words into groups. So look how many ways you could say led a project. If I scroll down, look how many ways you could say you add value to a project. You brought a project to life. And we can go down, down, down. Here's one that says save the company time or money. So in our mind, we don't think how many ways we could say it. But by going to this web page, you could grab those words easily and you could spend less time thinking about what you want to put on your resume and more time polishing up your accomplishments. So this is an example of 185 action verbs that you want to use for your resume. Let me go back into the presentation. Actually, let me also bring in that next piece over. Where did that go? It's right here. Okay. And I'll have this ready for the next one. Okay, good. So let me go back to the presentation. Okay. So that was the use your action and power words. And when this is all done, you'll see a finished resume that you could build from moving forward. Okay. So the next slide. The biggest issue that a lot of hiring managers have seen, and it goes back to the college student and also goes back to working professionals, is there's not enough emphasis on soft skills. And you think, well, what are soft skills? And what I did was I found another web link, the top 10 soft skills list. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this slide. Let's stop sharing. Okay, good. So this is the web reference to the top 10 soft skills. And what's nice about it is it shows you the difference between a soft skill and a hard skill. And what's interesting is in your resume, you want to identify both hard skills and soft skills. And what's nice about this one is once you understand how soft skills work, if you want to talk about communication, instead of just saying the word communication, why not use the word, for example, clarity or listening? I call it active listening. Actually, I like to use active listening. If I scroll down and teamwork, I'm a big, oh, there's active listening and teamwork. Oh, there you go. Conflict management. You can't have a team without conflict. So how well do you manage conflict in a team? These are words that score higher because you're used less. And anytime that you could raise your score when you apply traditionally for a resume, the better chance a human will read your resume. And from that, you'd want to gain an interview. So this is the second web reference. And of course, adaptability, problem solving is a big deal. Creativity. I like to use the word divergent thinking. Those are very strong words. No one talks about work ethic. And I like to use the word self-motivated a lot. I like to use the word committed. And there's ways to use that wording in your resume summary as well as other areas within your resume. So now you have two places that could give you resume verbs, and you have a place to get soft skills to add to your resume. I know, I'm excited. You guys think I'm crazy, but I love doing this stuff. All right, let's go back to the presentation here. All right, so the next slide, highlight your skills and abilities. That's a given, but more importantly, what I share, and it goes into the last slide as well, is if you're going up a ladder where you start off, for example, as an intern, then you went to an associate, then you went to, let's say, an engineer, and you move up vertically naturally, that's ideal when it comes to careers. But realistically wise, that doesn't happen. A lot of, in fact, the majority of the industry are jumping titles, jumping careers, and it's hard for an ATS system to follow and connect the dots. That's the reason why in this section, we want to make it plain as day. What skills and abilities do you bring to the table that are recent and relevant to the job that you're applying for? And whenever you could use industry terms and whenever you could use keywords from their job description, that is a time where you're not using your words, you're using their words to highlight your skills and ability. Because when you speak in their words, it also raises the score of the ATS scoring for your resume. Okay, I know it's a lot of stuff. This is the part that everybody misses. The top part of the resume shows why you're qualified. Now, you remember the earlier I showed you should build a career portfolio, and part of that career portfolio was not only your resume, but it was your cover letter. So when we think about the cover letter and the resume, the cover letter explains how you're qualified, and the resume explains why. So what you're going to do is you're going to take elements from the job description and you're going to bring them into the top part of your resume. And also in your cover letter, you're going to bring those elements in the highlights of qualification on the cover letter. So when you combine the cover letter with the resume, that content combined, as a matter of fact, if they don't ask for a cover letter, I would combine a customized cover letter with the resume as one PDF document. So when you apply online, you score higher. So these are some of the tricks to what I call game the system. Your resume has to speak to why you're qualified. You need to talk about soft skills. You need to bring in your skill set and abilities. And of course, you need to have a wider vocabulary of action verbs of what you can do. I know, a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. So, and we're gonna go to actually talking about an actual resume that you guys can view. But I do want to share with you. Uh-oh, maybe not. Oh, there it is. I do want to share with you a reference that if you're interested in, and this is where I build my entire practice around, is if you're interested in a book, the founder of LinkedIn, his name is Reid Hoffman. I actually have the digital book because I don't read. I prefer to listen to the book. So I have this audiobook of the Startup of You. His book talks about why you should have your career as being an entrepreneur, which is a different way of thinking. And when I read his book years ago, his book talks about why you should do it. And I'm finally getting around to finish my book called Career Relevant, which picks up where his book leaves off, and it's called How. So in short order, probably by this time next year, Career Relevant, the book is going to be out, and you guys get a chance to see it early on, practice real time before the market gets to see it. I know I'm excited too. And let me go to the last slide here. Earlier, I mentioned the first part, which is the career portfolio. That's just one of three parts. And Career Relevant, the book, goes in detail about the career relevant process, which is in 3 steps. You build your portfolio, you expand your career network, and at the end, in the last part, very critical is, are you career relevant? And what I do is I teach how to win the interview, and I also teach how to get multiple offers. That's where all the money's at, by the way. That's where the executives come to me and say, "Hey, Professor Rick, what could I do to improve my job standings?" And I say, the best time to negotiate is before you accept the job, because after that, all bets are off. So you'd hate to start a job and leave money on the table when you could have negotiated that in before you started. So that gives you an idea of the career relevant process. Now you have a reference with a book that I suggest, The Startup of You with Reid Hoffman and the co-founder of LinkedIn. And you also have both of those references for soft skills and also action words for your resume. So let's put that all together and let's see what it looks like. Actually, let's not see what it looks like yet. I gave you a lot of information, class. Is there anything that you want me to clarify, or is the pace too fast? Is it too slow? Uh, any comments in chat? I like to see. Maybe anything. Okay, good pace. Okay, good. Well, thank you. Because I don't want to hold up your time, but at the same time, there's people that. It's all okay. Good. Thank you very much. There are a lot of people that look at this and get overwhelmed very easily. In my role as a former university professor, I've taken 40 books and I condense it down to this process. And I could break these down to 30-minute workshops, and that's what I'm doing nationwide already. So you're seeing things firsthand. So let me give you an example of a resume that is done, and you're welcome to request a copy of it. And let me do my screen share. And all right. So this is a one-page resume, and I'm going to drill down on it. But you get an idea that a lot has changed when it comes to the world of the resume. And at my level, and what I do from a consulting perspective, this is a B resume. So if you're not doing this, forget it. I actually teach all the way up to the A level, but um, when I meet you in person or when we drill down, I could help. You got to start off with the B level first, and we polish it upwards. You see. So let's do a page width, and let's try to do a page width, and start from the top. So you notice where this is a generic resume, of course, but you notice we don't put the full address. You notice that we also want to put our LinkedIn URL, because the goal of the resume is to bring traffic to your LinkedIn. Are you kidding me? Where did that come from? All right, well, let me get rid of that. How did that come in? Anyways, the goal is the resume is supposed to do 3 things. First and foremost, it shows the employer how well you put yourself on paper for a specific job. In particular, I even say a job theme. And ideally should be one page. But if you had a vertical career where you had steps and all of a sudden you're all the way up to a director or vice president, um, typically they go back 10 years, and typically they want to see more detailed projects and go on 2 pages. But I would say 60 or 70% of the resumes could be on one page. And the reason why I say that is you want to send your traffic to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn becomes your super resume. You see? And that's the reason why we have the LinkedIn URL up here. And also, you want to customize that LinkedIn URL, if possible, to your first and last name with a professional matching email that hopefully is your first and last name as well. Because the whole top area, that's where you're being branded. So if you notice, the top part of the resume, you want to match the job title to the position that you're applying for, and you want to get key phrases from the job description, literally from the job description, to support that job title. And you notice the summary is brief. We're not here to talk about how to write a summary, but the summary is brief. And here's another space here. There is your soft skills, which no one really talks about. Even though it's understood, the ATS system, the computer system, doesn't know the difference. So make it easy for the ATS system to rank you higher, because it's going to recognize those soft skills because they're already pre-programmed in that system. So this is the top part that I was mentioning. This area here, the bottom part talks about the soft skills again, but these two parts, and that could be expanded, but I put it as an example, that's the section where you highlight your skills by taking elements of the job description and you put it on the top part of your resume. That's this top section here. This is where 95% of the resumes fail out there. They don't even get it. It's not practiced at the certified writers level. They don't even practice this because I would argue the ATS system, they don't even care about the format. All they care is about content. And even if you have a good resume, if it doesn't reflect the job that you're applying for, or if it doesn't speak their language, you score lower. So this is the top part that I mentioned, the why. Now let's scroll down. Now you notice we have a section for hard skills. And you're also going to notice, in this case, what's highlighted, that's the quantifiable part. We talked about percentages, we talked about numbers, and we talked about dollar signs. So you want to be able to incorporate that. So this section, the experience section, it's not a rehash of duties. Anyone could cut and paste duties in a resume. Another part of where resume writers fail or resumes fail is they don't talk about accomplishments. So what the ideal thing to do is just summarize what you do for the role and bring out, in this case, because we're limited in space, one or two accomplishments where this talks about the problem and the action that you did, and this part, oh, I'm on the wrong side here. I'm gonna go over here. And this part talks about the result. So have you ever heard that acronym PAR, problem, action, result? They also have STAR and they have CAR and they have all these different acronyms. But why not set up the interview? Uh-oh, some bandwidth issues here. Oh, where you set them up with your problem, action, and your result. And the goal during the interview is you give them a copy of your resume. And if they start reading out of your resume, That's a good sign. Plus, you know all the answers to it. Plus, you could drill down on all your accomplishments. You notice this role goes back to 2002. This person had 2 jobs, which is good. By the way, this person was a former client, and if I recall, oh, this person is working for Microsoft now. But that's another story. So you see, the experience section is very concise. And then, of course, in the bottom, under education, it's not just for your degrees. You could also put your training, your certification, your military background. You could also put your community work. You can also put professional organizations you're part of. If you're a recent grad, you could talk about clubs that you were a part of and memberships. So this resume, let me just put it to the one-page view. If you divide it into 3 sections, covers the 3 areas that I like to focus on, which is education, experience, and expertise. So even if it's technical resume or not, this format, this type of style works because it covers the 3 E's. It brings elements from the job description. And at the end, let me just go back to this. We can flip back and forth, of course, but I wanted to go back to, are we back on the, yep. It goes back to these key tips. We quantify the accomplishments. We use, I'll drill down on the action words in a second here, action and power words. We listed the soft skills. We highlighted the skills and abilities, and the top part of the resume shows why. So let me go back to my screen share. So you notice, go to page with, look at that, we're doing good at time too, 7:40. Okay, good. Let me go back to page with. So you notice here, I have the word developed, I have the word delivered, I have the word designed, opening up inherited, took ownerships, we have provided, upgraded. All those are action words. At any given time, I could replace those words with any of those 185 words that we used. But I use this as an example. And the goal of resume 2 is not to tell your whole story. If it's too much, they're not going to read it. It's just enough for you to get an interview so you could sell yourself. And later on, if you're, well, this is not the space to talk about how to win an interview. This is more about how do you get to a B-level resume. And once you have the B-level resume and you're comfortable with it, you'll let me know. And if you want me to review it, I can take you up to the A-level resume. So we're 40 minutes in, woohoo! And we've covered all the topics we wanted to talk about for Rockstar Your Resume. You've seen 2 of the references. You've seen the goal of the resume in terms of how this could be finished. And you also see what you're missing. So if you're not doing this at this level, you're going to be challenged. And I'd argue 98% or more than 90% of the people are challenged already with this. Okay. So any comments or questions, or this is what I teach. This is what I do. I'm hoping that I added value to your insight. What questions does anybody have? I should go back to the. Of course. To the first website. Absolutely. In fact, to the first website. Where is that? Let's see. This one. There we go. So I could, let me see if it comes in this way. I'm just paste. All right. That's the first one. And then, of course, I'm also grab the second one just for kicks, which is over here. Oh, hold on. Which is, oh, maybe, oh, this one here. Here's the second one, the soft skills one. So my point, class, is yes, you can clearly get a copy of that because you know how much things have changed, and you're not going to see this resume out yet until when my reach comes out and you start seeing this. You're going to say, "Yeah, I saw that first back at 2019 with Professor Rick." But you guys get a chance to build from it. So yes, send me an email, and I'm happy to send you a copy of it. Now, keep in mind, you want to convert that resume to a PDF file, and you also want to save that resume as your first name, last name. Actually, I have it on there. Let me see, where's that? Uh, oh no, I don't have it on there. But basically, first name, last name, the word professional resume, then the name of the company, comma, the job that you're applying for. So it's easy to file that resume, but it's also easy for the hiring manager to file it and forward it. So all the time you're thinking the process is make it easier for the hiring manager to hire you. Your goal is to make them look good. So if you give a good impression on what you look like on paper, as well as your online presence through LinkedIn, and then all your documentation is consistent and it tells the same story, as a hiring manager, I'm more comfortable to not only bring you in for an interview, but because you read my LinkedIn profile, I know 75% of you already, you see? So at the time that you get into an interview, they're not asking you hard questions because you've already answered those questions with your career documents and your LinkedIn profile. So these are the things that you can control up front. You build it once, that sits still, and then the next step is how do we roll out your job campaign? Which that's funny. I don't have a. I could teach that in person. Actually, it's not happening in the near future. But if there's enough people that ask for it, I can make an exception and talk about how do you put together a job campaign, because that is where 95% of people fail. Is okay, I got this resume, and they're applying through career builders and monster and ladders and indeed, and they're failing. Well, I have a better job campaign that speaks to that, and of course I know why they're failing, but that's the focus of this workshop. So there you go. Those are the links for your reference. If you're interested, kindly send me an email for an example of. Actually, this is an example of a grade B resume. So you're like, wow, Professor Rick, what does an A resume look like? Well, uh, I will share that after you put together your B resume. And if you like, as a courtesy, I will review it with you and polish it up so it's at least an A minus. So uh, twice a month, like for example, last last month I did this workshop in person, and then the following month I do it online, and then next week I'm doing the next workshop in person, which is compete with your cover letter, and then this time next month I do the webcast for it. So I get a chance to do it twice. And if you can't meet in person, you can jump on the webcast. And I'm putting together all this content. So I'll be putting it on my YouTube, and I'm going to share that with the world, of course. So this knowledge gets out, and we give back to community, so we can give you more money in your pocket. You can feel confident about your career. And of course, at the end of the day, I got your back. You're not going to get a better coach, mentor, uh, gainful employment expert, career development expert. There's no one better out there. I challenge that. And no one better out there that has a nonprofit that's supporting you guys. So I'm honored that you're here to share this experience. If you know anybody that could take advantage of our meetup group, kindly have them sit in, try it. Also, in the near future, either next month or the following month in Vancouver, I'm going to be sitting at my favorite tea shops, and I'm going to give free resume reviews in person. So basically, if a person finished this and wants to meet in person, what a nice way to see firsthand how do we get your talent on paper, then build your confidence towards your job campaign. So, want to respect your time. I thank you very much for spending some time with me and our career relevant process and being part of our meetup group. I gotta believe you took one, two, or three things away from this workshop. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And I wish you all a great night. And yes, thank you very much. And let me